Chapter 77 of Shrimadbhagavatam, The Birth of the Maruts. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Once, when the Asuras were all being killed by Indra, who had the support of Narayana, Diti was very angry and unhappy. She decided that Indra should die. Indra, who was the killer of his cousins, who was always indulging in the pleasures of the senses, who was cruel and who was a sinner. She said, "This Indra is very foolish. For the sake of preserving the life within his body, he has ignored the dictates of dharma. What is a human body even if it is that of a king, a ruler, a demigod? After death, hardly 2 days after or 3, vultures, dogs and worms have a feast of it. If the body is burnt, the ashes do not make up even a handful. When such is the case, is it not foolish and utterly selfish to commit sins for preserving this body? I must become the mother of a son who will destroy this Indra." Diti approached her husband Kashyapa with her request and asked him to help her to realize her desire. She adopted a subterfuge to get her husband's promise. She served him so well for a long while that he was pleased with her and said, I am so pleased with you that I will grant you any boon you want. Ask me." She then told him about her wish to have a son who would destroy Indra. Kashyapa was quite upset by this unholy desire in her. He regretted his impulsive promise, but he had to keep his word. So he told her, "I will teach you the incantations for a vrita, which you have to observe for an entire year. It is very difficult and you should obey my instructions implicitly. If you do it, at the end of the year a son will be born to you and he will be the answer to your prayers." He then taught her the ritual which went by the name Pumsavanam. Bearing the child of Kashyapa in her womb, Diti observed the vrita very strictly. Indra, in the meantime, knew the anger of Diti, his aunt. He also knew about the vrita which she was observing to produce a child which would kill him. Indra came to Diti and took upon himself the task of attending on her. Daily, he would bring flowers and fruits and samide with kusha grass for her. He would himself carry for her pure water for her requirement. He was always with her, watching her incessantly. Diti was touched by the devotion of her nephew, and in her womanly generosity did not gauge the depth of the hypocrisy that was part of Indra's devotion to her. Indra was waiting for the moment when she would forget herself and relax from the strict observance of the vrita. He was like a hunter stalking his prey. But try as he might, he could not see her relaxing even for a moment. She was observing all the rules set down by Kashyapa, and she had not made a single mistake. Still, he persevered. Finally, his patience was rewarded. One day, Diti was very tired because of the severe disciplining of the vrita and the fatigue attending on the advanced condition of her pregnancy. She went to sleep at evening time without having a bath and without doing her achamana. Indra grabbed the chance which to him was a God sent. He entered her womb with the help of his yoga. He saw the golden colored child which was still in the making. Indra took up his vajra and cut it up into 7 pieces. The pieces began to cry. He said, "Marudha," meaning do not cry. And each piece he cut up further into 7 pieces each. All the little pieces folded their tiny hands together and said, "Indra, we are your brothers. Why do you do this to us?" Indra said, "Do not be afraid. It is because I want you to be my brothers that I am doing this to you. You will be one with me in the Deva host and you will be called the Maruts." Diti woke up from her sleep and found that her children had been born. They were glowing like fire and they stood by the side of Indra. She looked at them and at Indra. She said, "Indra, my child, I have been observing this difficult vrita with the desire of getting a son to kill you. How is it that there are 49 sons? Do not try to deceive me with lies. Tell me the truth if you are capable of speaking it. Indra said, Mother, I crave your pardon. With a desire to protect myself from your fury, I entered your womb and tried to destroy the unborn child. But though it was cut up again and again by my Vajra, the child would not die. I fall at your feet and ask you to pardon me for this atrocity. It was a wicked act on my part, I know. But, Mother, the desire to live is in the heart of everyone, and that was responsible for this. Your sons, however, are all alive. I could not kill them. Diti's anger against Indra evaporated. Her hatred also went along with it. She said, It is fate which made me lapse for a moment from the severity of the vrita and my strict observance of it. I was so careful and today I went wrong. It is not my carelessness but the Maya of Narayana which caused it. My child had been granted immortality by their father, and that is the reason why your Vajra was powerless. But you have achieved what you wanted. I have also been fortunate in the fact that my child is not dead. Diti was silent for a few moments, and Indra was standing with his head bowed down and his palms nervously folded together. The curse of a good woman is worse than death, and he did not know how angry she was. Diti, however, composed herself. Her anger and her hatred had left her, and she said, The wishes of the Lord can never be transgressed. Take my sons with you, and they will be your companions. As you are a Deva, they will also be Devas, though they were born of Diti. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 78 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Yudhishthira's doubt. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. During Dwapara, the third quarter of time, Yudhishthira, the Pandava, performed the Rajasuya. When the yaga was concluded, the Pandavas worshipped Krishna as the best among the guests. This incensed Shishupala, the king of the Chedis. He spoke despairingly of Krishna. Krishna had to kill him to put an end to his tirade. When Shishupala died, his life, released from his body, went straight to the feet of Krishna and became lost there. Only some people could see this. The glow from Shishupala's body traveling towards the feet of Krishna and getting salvation at the lotus feet of the Lord. Yudhishthira was one of the few who saw this, and he at once asked Narada, My Lord, I am amazed at the sight of Shishupala's becoming one with the Lord. People who have been bhaktas of the Lord, who have thought of nothing but the blessed feet of the Lord, even they have not been able to reach his feet easily. But this man, this Shishupala, this sinner who has ever hated Krishna, whose first lisping words were decrying Krishna, this Shishupala, I say, has been killed by Krishna, and he has reached the blessed feet of Krishna. My mind is whirling like a flame caught in a gale. People tell me how, instead of going to hell for the words he spoke about Krishna, Shishupala has found refuge at his feet. Narada said, Yudhishthira, yours is a pertinent question. You want to know why a man who has been decrying Krishna has not been punished. Let me tell you something which you may not know. Insult, praise, honor and dishonor are all terms which are associated with the body. It is the man who is entrapped in a human body who has occasion to feel these things. When the feelings of I and mine lodge in the heart, the ego begins to feel elated or angry according as whether it is praised or insulted. And it is this ego which thinks of punishments or rewards for another man who hurts it or displeases it. But the Lord is beyond all this. These insults, as you call them, do not affect him in the least, and he is not interested in punishing a man for speaking despairingly of him. Nor Is he pleased to send someone to heaven because he spoke well of him? The rules of bhakti and of reaching the Lord are indeed quaint. I will explain it to you. Continuous hatred, continuous bhakti, continuous affection, or constant desire for the Lord. All these look alike to him, and he saves such people. There are several pathways of approach to God, and these are some of them. The ultimate aim is to think on the Lord all the time. Bhakti, fear, affection, and desire, as well as hatred, are all paths that lead to him. You know how the worm is captured by the wasp and placed in a little mud covered hole? Constant fear of the wasp and its sting makes the worm think only of the wasp, and in course of time it becomes changed into a wasp. Even so, constant hatred of the Lord makes his image stay in the mind forever, and I have known such people to have been cleansed of their sins, and they have reached his feet. Hatred of the Lord is a kind of yoga by name Sambrama Yoga, and it is almost a shortcut to his feet. What a bhakta reaches by a long wandering is reached sooner by this so-called hater of him. Like bhakti, which is a desire for him, this hatred of him, fear of him, affection for him, all these are equally effective paths. Impelled by a desire for Krishna, the gopis thought of him day and night, and they will attain mukti. We have been impelled by bhakti to think on him all the time, and we have found freedom from this world of Maya. Kamsa was afraid of Krishna, and that fear made him think of Krishna day and night. And he thought of no one else, and so when he died, he reached the feet of the Lord. Because they are his kinsmen, the Yadavas think of Krishna with love, and they will attain mukti when their time comes. You and your brothers, because of the affection you have for Krishna, think of him and only him day and night, and you are assured of a place at his feet. The end is important and not the means. Whatever be the force motivating them, if a man's thoughts are firmly fixed on the Lord, he will attain mukti. As for Shishupala, he has been granted a special boon that his hatred for the Lord will lead him straight to Vaikuntha, the abode of the Lord. In ancient times, when Jaya and Vijaya, the doorkeepers of Narayana, were cursed by the rishis Sanaka, Sananda, Sanat Kumara, and Sanat Sujata to be born on the earth, the Lord had assured them that he would himself grant them freedom from the bondage of birth. They were told that they would hate the Lord so much that they would have thoughts for no one else except Narayana, and this constant hatred would grant them freedom. Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha in the Krita Yuga, Ravana and Kumbhakarna during the Treta Yuga, Shishupala and his cousin Dantavakra during Dwapara are the three births of Jaya and Vijaya. Now that the third birth is ended, Shishupala has reached the feet of the Lord from where he had been exiled so long ago. Dantavakra will follow very soon. Yudhishthira said, "Tell me more about them. I am fascinated by the story of these two." Narada said, "Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were the sons of Diti. Hiranyaksha was killed in the form of a Varaha, the form he took to raise Mother Earth from the nether world. Hiranyaksha fought a duel with the Lord and was killed by him." Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 79 of Shrimadbhagavatam. Hiranyakashipu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. When he saw that his brother had been killed by Narayana, who had assumed the form of a boar, Hiranyakashipu became very unhappy and very angry. His eyes were red and he caught his throbbing lips between his teeth. He raised his trident aloft and said, "My comrades, you all know how terrible has been the fate of my brother. He is killed and killed by our arch enemy, Narayana. I cannot brook this. I will plunge this trident of mine into the neck of that Narayana, and with his blood I will pacify the soul of my dead brother. Only then will I be rid of this gnawing pain which is eating into my vitals. Once Narayana is dead, all his devotees will take thought and die of their own accord, like creepers dry up when the tree is uprooted, the tree to which they have been clinging. At the present moment, this is what you should all do. Go to the earth which is crowded with Brahmins and the Kshatriyas. Destroy all those who are bent on tapas, yajna, learning and penance. Narayana is said to be the abode of dharma, and he is said to be present where yajnas are being performed, where Brahmins congregate and pursue their daily rituals, where the devas are ever present. Wherever you see Brahmins, cows, Vedas and rituals being performed according to the Vedic dicta, go to that spot and destroy everything, burn everything, kill everyone, uproot the sacred trees, do everything you possibly can to make Narayana homeless. Commanded by their master, the Asuras began to harass everyone. Cities, villages, cowsheds, flowers, gardens, hermitage, where rishis lived, fields and homes were all destroyed. With crowbars, with hatchets, with spades and lances, they razed to the ground temples, cities, city walls and buildings. They broke bridges and they ripped up the roads. Trees like the mango and other fruit-giving trees reputed to be sacred to Narayana were cut down. With torches in their hands, they set fire to the huts of the people who were poor, because they had been told that the poor are dear to Narayana. The Devas were so troubled by the Asuras that they abandoned their heaven and moved about on the earth in different guises. Hiranyakashipu comforted his relatives who were mourning the death of Hiranyaksha. He said, "It is not right that you should mourn the death of a hero. Death in the battle is to be desired by a warrior. It is because of the karma of long ago that two people are brought together in this birth. According to their karma in this birth, they are separated. This meeting and this living together for a while is like meeting at a mela. Let me tell you that you are grieving for someone who is not dead. The Atman is eternal, pure and indestructible. It is something apart from the body which it inhabits. The Atman assumes a body and the qualities of a human being. And when the body dies, we think that the man is dead, but that is wrong. The happiness and sorrow and all the many things that flesh is here to or not meant to affect the Atman. When a river has its banks lined with trees, have you not seen the shadows of the trees on the water? When the water moves, it seems as though the shadows are also moving. But the trees, as well as their shadows, are fixed. They have no movement. When one is turning round and round, it seems as though the world around us is turning round. But that is not so. Even so, when we consider the Atman encased in the human body, we think that the different feelings of a human being are experienced by the Atman. But that is not so. The free Atman and the conditioned Atman appear to be different. The latter, when it gets involved in a body, seems to go through the feelings of separation, meeting, being born, dying, worry, sorrow, and all the many things common to man. But if we look at it intelligently, it is obvious that this is not so. The Atman is not going through the travails of a human being's feelings and sufferings, since it is something apart. Abandon your grief and let us consider our next action. I will find methods of avenging the death of my dear brother by destroying our arch enemy, Narayana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 80 of Shrimadbhagavatam. Hiranyakashipu is granted a boon. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hiranyakashipu had but one desire. He wanted to be invincible. He wanted to be immortal. He wanted to be the sole lord of all the three worlds. He decided to perform tapas. With the power of his tapas, which would be intense, he thought of pleasing Brahma so that his desires would be granted by him. Hiranya went to the Mandara mountain and with intense concentration he performed tapas for years together. When he was absorbed in his tapas, the Devas came back to their abode, abandoning their disguises. As days passed, The tapas of Hiranya became so intense that he began to glow like the sun at noon. Every lock on his head was spitting fire. The entire world was feeling the heat, and it looked as though the world would be burnt to ashes. The rivers and the sea became turbulent. The earth quaked and the mountains threw up fire. Stars fell to the earth and the quarter began to burn because of the tapas of Hiranyakashipu. The Devas, as usual, went to Brahma and said, "My lord, it is time you went to your Bhakta and granted him whatever he desires. We are unable to bear the heat emanating from his tapas and its glory. As for what he desires, it is not as though you do not know it. Still, we give you a word of warning." Hiranya seems to have said, Brahma, with the powers of his tapas, was once able to create the universe and also his own abode, the Satyaloka, which is far superior to any other abode of the Devas. I know that if I try hard enough, I will be able to become Brahma. I will then be able to take the Satyaloka for myself. I will create a new world where the laws will all be changed. The laws which have existed so far will all be changed. Why? They will be abolished altogether. What was all these days considered to be sin will thereafter be holy. The Asuras will become Devas, and as for Devas, they will be the Asuras when I am Brahma. That is the purpose for which Hiranya is performing tapas so intensely. Please be sure to remember all this, my lord, when you go to him and grant him his boons. Brahma listened to their words and went to the cave where Hiranya was lost in his tapas. Brahma could not see him at first. So completely had the weeds and ant hills covered him. Brahma went to him and said, "My child, I am pleased with the tapas, which has never been performed before with so much devotion and such concentration. I am very pleased with you. Ask anything of me and I will grant it." Brahma, who was so overcome with joy at the devotion of his bhakta, must evidently have forgotten the words of warning spoken by the Devas. Hiranya fell at the feet of Brahma, who sprinkled water on him from his kamandalu. At once the Asura regained all the strength, freshness and beauty of form which he had neglected all these years. He now glowed like molten gold. He spoke with a faltering voice and with tears in his eyes. He was overcome with joy at the sight of Brahma. He spoke words of praise and then said, "I want one boon from you. Only one. I had several other desires, but the moment I saw you in person, I know that they have been granted even without my asking. The only boon I want is, I want to be immortal." Brahma said, "My child, considering that I am myself not immortal, I am not able to grant you that boon. But mention the things from which you want to be immune, and I will grant you that. I cannot do more." Hiranya said, "Then grant me that none of your creations will be the cause of my death. Not one of the things which you have created must be the death of me. No weapons should cause my death. I must not die inside the house, nor should I die outside the house. Not during the day, nor during the night. Not on the earth, nor in the sky. Man should not kill me, nor should an animal. Living things should not cause my death, nor should non-living things be the instruments of my end. Devas, Asuras, or reptiles should all be unable to destroy me. Please grant me this boon. Please also assure me that I will be the sole suzerain of the universe and my wealth should be immense. It should never diminish." Brahma granted him the boons he asked for and vanished from the Mandara mountains. Hiranyakashipu set out on his conquests. In accordance with the boons granted to him by Brahma, he was able to conquer all the three worlds and the guardians of the four quarters. Indra, Varuna, Kubera and Yama were now his vassals. He then went to heaven and occupied the palace of Indra. All the servants of Indra had to serve Hiranya now. He received all the havis meant for Indra and the other devas. The earth had to yield up her crop even without plowing, and the seven seas gave up their gems to Hiranya. And yet he was not happy. He hated Narayana and that Hatred was smouldering inside him like the fire inside a bamboo forest. Years passed. The atrocities committed by the Asuras became intolerable. People prayed to the Lord secretly in the caves of their hearts, and for the sake of appearance, pretended to be devoted to Hiranya. The Devas, in desperation, went to the presence of Narayana and asked him to deliver them from the tyranny of the Asura king. The Lord comforted them and said, "Do not fear. Leave it to me. I know the sufferings you have been undergoing. Hiranya's wickedness is becoming unbearable. He will be the father of a good son. When this sinful Hiranya ill treats his son, who will be the very image of love and friendliness and all the many qualities dear to me, when such a Bhagavata is hurt by the Asura, then will I make an appearance. And in spite of the many boons granted to him by Brahma, I will destroy Hiranyakashipu. Do you not know that one who hates the Devas, insults the Vedas, Brahmins, cows, sages, Dharma, and me, is but waiting for his destruction at my hands? It is just a matter of time. Do not fear. His son will be the immediate cause of the death of Hiranyakashipu. I will kill him." Comforted by his words of assurance, the Devas went away from his presence. The fact that the end of Hiranya was near, that their sufferings would be at an end, made them feel that they could somehow bear with patience the period of waiting. There was now hope in their hearts, and that made them live in anticipation of the good times to come. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.